Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to the video. I hope everybody's day is going great. Mine is, and today we're going to be talking about the games from yesterday. They were very telling. Although we are still seeing a wide variety of team comps, the meta is still forming. There is a playstyle that most of the teams are shaping into. And not only is the meta shaping, we're also getting a good look at where each team will stand in this stage so far. We had some good games yesterday. We started off with Boston Uprising going up against the Philadelphia Fusion. Philly proved to be too strong for the Boston Uprising. Then in the second set, we had New York Excelsior taking on Florida Mayhem. This was an interesting one. And then the last matchup was the Houston Outlaws taking down the London Spitfire pretty easily in a 4-0. Oh my, what is the London Spitfire doing? We're going to be covering all three of these games and more, guys. If you're new around here, do not forget to subscribe to my channel. I upload Overwatch League related content every single day, so if you enjoy the Overwatch League, this is the channel for you. Also, I'll be live on Twitch tonight after the games, talking about them. We'll do some analysis, probably play a little bit of Overwatch. It'll be a fun stream, and I'll see you guys there. Now let's hop into it. We started off with that very first set, the Boston Uprising Philadelphia Fusion. Going into this match, I was really nervous and excited to see what would happen. I had predicted prior to this match that Philadelphia Fusion would be a really strong team going into this stage, preferably top 3, top 4, and then Boston Uprising would end up being one of the bottom teams. Just overall, looking at the Boston Uprising roster as a whole, it didn't seem they had the flexibility and the capability to adapt as in prior stages when the meta abruptly changed. The Boston Uprising, they slacked off and it took them a while to adapt. Obviously, once they did, they were a really good team, but they did have to go through a lot of growing pains, and it took a while to get where they needed to be. And not just this, I felt that they would have a lack of flexibility within their roster to play the specific roles needed for this meta. So starting off with their DPS player, I talked about mistakes a lot. Sure, he's a good role player, a guy that can sit in the back and hold his own and make sure he doesn't make any mistakes and hold the team back. But in this meta, on that specific role that Mistakes plays, which is the flex DPS, mainly a Widowmaker right now, that is not the playstyle you need. You have to be the hard carry on Widowmaker. We saw it a lot from Linkster today. We'll talk about that later. And Mistakes just clearly is not a hard carry, not even a soft carry. He's just a role filler, a supportive DPS player, and that is not going to work out for the Boston Uprising. The second issue with the roster, which is just as big as the first one, has to do with Note. Now, Note was a phenomenal player for the Boston Uprising throughout stages 1, 2, and 3. He was one of the most consistent performers for them, and he just did so much overall on that D.Va. Well, what do you do when you enter a meta where D.Va is not as good as she used to be? Not nearly. To be honest, right now, you kind of get punished for running D.Va, unless you have a Bridget and a Zarya on your team. Not only was I worried about Note's flexibility and not knowing if he could flex over to the Bridget or the Zarya, whatever was needed, I was worried that the playstyle Boston Uprising has developed over the past stage was so reliant on Note's D.Va play that them moving onto the stage and not having the presence Note did on the D.Va, these guys were really going to be missing something crucial to what made them so good. So if I haven't made it clear in the past as to why I think Boston Uprising is not going to be performing at a high level, especially compared to their stage 3 performance, hopefully I did the best I could there. And now let's talk a little bit about Philadelphia Fusion. There are a few reasons why I feel Philadelphia Fusion will be really strong in this meta. Well, let's start off with the Boston Uprising's first issue, which is Mistakes, their Widowmaker player. Philadelphia Fusion does not have a lack of a star player on that Widowmaker. Carpe is absolutely insane, and we saw exactly that today. So going from stage 3 to stage 4, if I haven't made this clear yet, Widowmaker is now the main DPS player. It is no longer Tracer. Widowmaker is that hero that you are mainly going to be seeing all the time. And who have I said the best Widowmaker in the world is? Carpe. He's flashy, he gets a lot of kills, he survives, he has amazing presence on the map. He's literally the perfect Widowmaker in the league right now, and if you don't agree with that, go watch the match from yesterday against Boston Uprising. He literally proved it. So one of the biggest weaknesses for Boston Uprising is one of Philadelphia Fusion's biggest strengths. Now let's look at Boston's second weakness, which is them adapting and their flexibility. Well, Philadelphia Fusion hasn't really missed any beats in the Overwatch League. Sure, they've been inconsistent and have lost a lot of random sets to random teams, but when meta changes come, they still look like that same team. They've never really struggled to find an identity, had a really long rough patch where they just lost a bunch of matches. It's always been the same steady inconsistent or consistent from Philadelphia Fusion, whatever way you want to look at it. It's been the same results throughout the season. Now, as for the flexibility on this team, this is where they really shine. Looking at Carpe, people say, oh, he's just a hit scan specialist. No, he is not. He is one of the most flexible players in the league. Yeah, he's a hit scan specialist. He's also a projectile specialist. He can play the Hanzo. He can play the Genji. He can play a Mei. He can play a Doomfist. He can play a Junkrat. He can play it all. We saw it today and we've seen it in the past. He is not just a hit scan specialist. His flexibility is off the roof. Who is also flexible? EQO, a god of flexibility. I think he played, 9 heroes today? Absolutely unreal. And not only did he just play 9 heroes today, he played 9 heroes at an absolutely unreal level. The guy's Pharaoh was incredible. The guy's Widowmaker was incredible. The guy's Genji, Junkrat, Zarya, Diva. He plays it all. I've been harping on this throughout my videos for the past week. Flexibility is a huge reason why these guys are going to be so good. And it's not just the 2 DPS players. They also have flexibility within their roster. Now they have Sado. We saw him come in today. He looked great. They have Hoppa. He came in. He looked great. Poco can play multiple off tanks. There's no lack of Bridget play. Kyo and Carpe can both play it. This team, compared to the Boston Uprising, was made to play in this meta, and they're clearly not going to struggle like the Boston Uprising, and this was so obvious to me walking into this stage, and it was obvious after the match. We first started off on King's Row. One thing I did get a little scared about was Boston Uprising bringing Kalios in. I was like, oh crap, I let Kalios slip my mind. Of course he's going to be their Zarya player. I wonder how good he is. Well, he was okay. He wasn't amazing. He didn't look like Spree or anything. So Boston Uprising, they don't have an amazing Zarya player. They're lacking in flexibility. They don't have Note's presence on the Diva. Striker isn't able to carry on Tracer anymore. Mistakes is just average. Somehow they still did pick up King's Row, although this was just a lack of Philadelphia Fusion not really understanding how to play the map properly. They made a lot of mistakes. Poco, he didn't get any grabs. Fraggy played way over aggressive in this map. And what did the Philadelphia Fusion do? They tapped into their flexible roster. They pulled out Sado. They pulled out Hoppa. And we moved on to Hanamura. And it was the EQO and Carpe show. These two are looking like one of the best DPS duos in the league. If I were to do a rankings list, I would put them top 3 for sure right now. We then moved on to Lijiang Tower. The first round was Gardens. Both teams started off on tanks and Pharahs. EQO, he dominated the Pharah battle. We saw Striker on Pharah as well. Wasn't too impressed by that. Philadelphia Fusion won the first team fight. Then Boston Uprising thought it would be a good idea to switch over to Dive. That didn't work out for them. Philadelphia Fusion took the first round fairly easily. We moved on to the second round, and this was interesting. We saw Carpe come out with the Mei. It was very close, 99-99 on this round. Both teams kind of just went back and forth, used their ults. Whoever had the ult advantage won the fight. At the end of the day, Boston Uprising did have the better ult management on this round. They took it 1-1. We went on to Night Market. EQO once again on the Pharah looked really good. Carpe, he had this incredible play on Widowmaker, which is exactly why I say he is the #1 Widowmaker in the league. He doesn't die. He does flashy plays like this. He gets the kills when he needs to. Screw it. Let's go ahead and roll the clip. You guys check it out for yourselves.
Play here because you don't have like outside high ground to escape to if you get jumped on. But it looks like the Boston Uprising are too busy trying to take the point. That's the Widow duel 1. Again, Philadelphia Fusion always going to come out on top. Striker though lands a big triple on the barrage there. The Graviton helping. Both supports are caught together. That's what they needed, but Carpe strikes in again. Striking down. Felix also being removed. Carpe, what are you doing? This is unbelievable. He turns around and gets on the point. EQO follows it up. How have they redone this?
So yeah, Philadelphia Fusion, they took the round off the back of Carpe and EQO. And we moved on to the last map, Dorado, where Boston Uprising would have a chance to tie up the series, possibly force a Game 5, but Philadelphia Fusion was just not having it. Again, EQO and Carpe, they looked phenomenal. Something we haven't talked about really yet is Sado and Hoppa. They comboed for some really good tank play. I mean, it was literally some synergy we haven't seen from Fraggy and Poco ever before. I don't know if it's because they're both Korean and they're from the same area, they can speak the same language. I have no idea. Maybe they've just been duo queuing and playing together a ton ever since they joined the team, but they looked really good together. And we might actually be seeing the best version of the Philadelphia Fusion with these two players in. Something we were missing before was good synergy between Carpe and Fraggy. Fraggy's always been pretty aggressive, and Carpe didn't seem to always follow along with him. I don't know if it was the language barrier, but now we have a Korean main tank, and Carpe can communicate with him very easily. So it's going to be very interesting seeing how good the Philadelphia Fusion can actually get. Boston Uprising, I think they're going to continue to struggle. Probably to the end of week 3, early week 4 is when they might be able to pick it back up. We also have to keep in mind, guys, they lost their head coach. Krusty's no longer there. I don't know how much of an impact he had on the team, but in general, when you lose a head coach, it's always going to hold the team back in a certain way. The set was a lot of Philadelphia Fusion looking really good, and Boston Uprising kind of not looking the best. So it's hard to judge how good Philadelphia Fusion is right now. If I had to guess, I'd say they probably are top 6, and that was a good performance, but you never know how bad Boston Uprising could be. Very similar to the last set with Houston Outlaws and London Spitfire. Anyways, that's enough for this set. We talked about it a ton. I really wanted to go in detail on this one so you guys can understand my exact thought process and why I think Philly is a really good team for this meta and why I think Boston will struggle. Feel free to leave a comment down below if you guys have any questions. And now let's move on to that second set, which I'm not going to spend too much time on. It was New York Excelsior taking on Florida Mayhem. This set was kind of interesting, at least early on. It seemed like New York Excelsior were kind of a bit rusty or not used to the meta. Something was going on with them. They were just warming up, I guess. Especially on Hanamura, Florida Mayhem, they were able to pick up steam, and they were almost able to... Especially on Hanamura, the Florida Mayhem, they were able to pick up steam, and they came really close to winning this map, especially due to Logic's Heroics, who by the way looked pretty good in this set. I know he had a really rough last map against Pine, but overall in the first 3, he played pretty damn good. I mean, on Hanamura, he went 24-12 overall, which is pretty ridiculous. First map was Kings Row, went in favor of New York Excelsior. It was somewhat close. Hanamura, super close, was a draw. Neither team got the victory. We then moved on to Oasis. This was somewhat close too. New York Excelsior, though, they were the better team. On the rounds they won, they dominated. They did slip on that second round, though. New York Excelsior took it. They were 2-0 in the set, moving into the last map, which was Gibraltar. This one wasn't close at all. Pine came in for Libero. He looked amazing on the Widowmaker. Sabiobi back on his Tracer. He went 15-1. Absolutely dominated performance from him. What was interesting is we saw a lot of dives still from the New York Excelsior. Seemed like out of most of the teams I've played so far, they favored it the most. Maybe they're hiding their strategies from other teams. They don't want to show it off against Florida Mayhem. Maybe we'll see something good come out against London Spitfire, but London Spitfire aren't that great a competition either, so who knows, it'll probably just be dive again. Anyways, that was it for this set. Florida Mayhem, they showed some signs of life on Hanamura. Logic's had a great game. It was cool to see him back. It was also interesting not seeing Saya player in there. I wonder if he needed a break or something. What was exactly going on? I have no idea. But let's move on to that very last set because I have a lot to say about this one as well. London Spitfire, Houston Outlaws. So first and foremost, let's talk about the Houston Outlaws and how I thought they would do coming into this stage. I felt they had a lot of similar problems to the Boston Uprising. They didn't adapt very well early on in the season when there was big meta changes. It took them a while to get back into form, and to be honest, Houston Outlaws never really got back into form after stage 1. They've been pretty inconsistent. I know a big part of it was because they didn't have a good Tracer, but something I felt they were really going to lack coming into the stage was overall flexibility, not just on the Tracer. We really haven't seen Jake perform at a high level on many heroes so far in the league, just Junkrat. Well, in the match today, Jake looked amazing on multiple heroes. We'll cover that a little bit more later. But that was a glaring issue for me, was their flexibility, especially on DPS roles. Now moving on to Linkser, he's pretty much been going through a little bit of the same issue Birdring has. He's been low on confidence, hasn't been performing as good as he was in stage 1. Although it's similar to Birdring, he hasn't been performing nearly as bad as Birdring in the past 2 stages, but he also didn't perform nearly as good as Birdring in the first stage. So it's a little less inconsistent from him, but he hasn't been playing the best recently. So I was wondering what Linkser would show up today. Obviously a good one showed up, which favored the Houston Outlaws, but it's definitely something that I was worried about, and I'm definitely not cured from it yet. He's going to have a couple more good performances to think he is one of the better Widows in the league, not just one against a wounded Birdring. As for the Zarya situation with the Houston Outlaws, I'll admit it, I underestimated Spree, even though the London Spitfire did walk into him with a diva most of the set. I still did underestimate him. I did not think he would perform that well. Spree had some fantastic maps on Zarya today, and my question about them not having a Zarya, that was definitely answered. So Houston Outlaws, they may have answered a lot of my questions today, but that doesn't change the fact that London Spitfire absolutely just had a horrible performance, disgusting. It makes me sad to think about it. It looked like they were just not ready for this meta. Seemed like they didn't practice for it at all. Birdring, he looked just as bad as he's been looking in the past stage. Prophet and Gesture weren't able to do their solo carry thing to at least make the set look somewhat close. It was honestly overall pretty bad for the London Spitfire. Nothing went well for them today. We'll talk more about their issues at the end of this. Now let's go ahead and hop into some of the maps. We started off on Kings Row. The Houston Outlaws were on attack. No cool mat. Spree was in there, and he was playing Zarya, and the guy was getting his energy up instantly every team fight. London Spitfire, I think they could have done a better job at not giving him full charge just instantly every single time he dropped a bubble. But they did, and it really worked into Spree's favor. As well as this, Linkser, he had probably his best map throughout the set. He was getting picks left and right on the Widowmaker. By the way, he didn't play any other hero in this map besides Widow. And he had 17 final blows and only 5 deaths. So he had a great map. With the threat of him and Spree, they just walked all over the London Spitfire on their attack. Then Houston Outlaws moved on to defense. London Spitfire, they were on the attack. They decided to start off with this Pharah strategy, something we really haven't seen Prophet play all season long, maybe one time. And it seemed to be working somewhat early on. Prophet did get a pick, but then Birdring went down to Linkser, and then Birdring went down to Linkser again, and again, and again, and eventually Prophet wasn't able to do anything on the Pharah. Practically looked useless. He swapped over to Hanzo, he swapped over to Junkrat, nothing worked. They got first held. Obviously, Huyal on Diva didn't work out. He was just feeding, literally feeding the hell out of Spree. The guy was building Gravs so quickly. And London Spitfire never really had a chance besides that very first fight where Prophet got a pick on Raucus. And yeah, they got first held. First map went in favor of Houston Outlaws. We then moved on to Horizon Lunar Colony. A map, by the way, London Spitfire has not lost yet. And London Spitfire, they had a decent defense. They were able to slow down the Houston Outlaws with a few team fight wins here and there. But at the end of the day, Houston still capped with about 2 minutes left. Then London Spitfire went on the attack, and it didn't go well. London really struggled to get that first point, and they honestly didn't take it till the very last. Then they failed literally to get anything going on their second point attack. I mean, if there was one shining light on this map for the London Spitfire, it was that for maybe like a 2-minute stretch, Birdring actually did something and looked pretty decent on the Widowmaker. Too bad there wasn't really any follow-up on it though, and Birdring finally popping off had no impact on the team. So this map also went in favor of the Houston Outlaws, and they went up into the set 2-0. We then moved on to Lijiang Tower, and I got even more confused because for some reason, the London Spitfire decided to run a Diva again and walk into Spree and just feed him and feed him and feed him. Made absolutely no sense to me. This map was not really close at all. Prophet again on the Pharah, that didn't work out. Birdring tried the Pharah, that didn't work out. Prophet tried the Genji, that didn't work out. Nothing worked out for them on this map. London pretty much just got bullied. And I'm still wondering when teams are going to stop running Divas straight into Zaryas. I don't know why they're doing it, what the ideology is behind it. I would honestly love to know, but that was also it for Lijiang Tower. Houston Outlaws, they took the set 3-0. And up until this point, London Spitfire just looked lost. Seemed like they had nothing prepared for this meta. I don't know if it's a coaching issue, a leadership issue in game, but they are not playing together. The team comps they're deciding to run are clearly not good. They had way too much random flexing from Prophet today. The guy literally touched at least, I don't know, 9 heroes, and some of them he'd never played before. Random swaps to Birgitta that just made no sense. I don't know. London Spitfire completely looks out of it. As for the Houston Outlaws, they look pretty good. They seem to have a grasp on the meta. They were playing as a team. I think it was more of an individual effort, though, from Linkser and Jake. Both of them played great, especially Jake. He flexed just as much as Prophet, but he actually looked good when he played most of the heroes, unlike Prophet. We then moved on to Gibraltar, and this map really didn't matter for the set. Houston had already won, and we finally had a good map. It was exciting to watch. We saw Muma bust out the Bridget. Really interesting comp. They were running a Diva, Bridget, no main tank, and honestly, the London Spitfire were just scared absolutely out of their minds of Muma. He was walking all over them, doing whatever he wanted. I don't understand how it worked or why the London Spitfire was so scared. It's probably because they were running Dive, which is just absolutely terrible against Bridget no matter what. And yeah, although it was close and we went to overtime, Houston Outlaws still took the map. They won the set 4-0. They looked pretty good today. I'm not ready to say they're one of the best teams in the league. I am willing to say they moved up a little bit in my book, sitting around maybe top 7 now instead of top 9. And obviously London Spitfire, they fell way far behind. I was not impressed with them. I'm actually very disappointed. They're going to get rolled by New York Excelsior, and I've pretty much lost all faith in London. At this point, it might be even more beneficial to just not run Birdring and run Hureg, because it's not a wrist injury. People keep saying, oh, well, Birdring, you went through a wrist injury. You got to be easy on him. He'll be back sooner or later. It's been 2 months since he had a wrist injury. 2 months he's been underperforming hard. That's not just a wrist injury, guys. That is a confidence issue. And not only is it a confidence issue for him, the team is falling into a confidence issue too. And that's probably due to a lack of coaching, lack of leadership in game. London is a mess. I don't know what to say about them. Houston, they're on the right track. I absolutely cannot wait for their matchup against the Los Angeles Gladiators next week. That game means so much. By the way, guys, Valiant, Philadelphia Fusion, Fusion, Gladiators, and Houston Outlaws all won their first match of this week, which means the race just got even tighter and more exciting. I cannot wait to see where these games go. As I said, Gladiators and the Outlaws are going at it next week. That is going to be an absolutely crucial match for both teams. Whoever wins that will probably be the team that has the best chance to move on into the playoffs. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Let me know down below what you think. Sorry this one ran really long. I just had a lot of thoughts I wanted to say about that first set and the last one. Leave a like on the video. If you enjoy Overwatch League content daily, guys, I provide that on my channel. You'll never miss out on anything. Also, I'm going to be live on Twitch tonight after the Overwatch League games. Every single night I'm live. Go ahead and stop by and let's talk. I'll see you guys there. Peace.